Should I leave my girlfriend after what happened to her? I know how this sounds already. Selfish, cold, like I'm auditioning to be the villain. Maybe I am. Maybe this ends with you telling me to pack my bags. But before you decide, you need to hear everything, especially the part one still avoid saying out loud. My name is Noah. I'm 27M, and my girlfriend is Lila, 25F. We live in Raleigh, North Carolina. We met on a Saturday volunteer day where you get a neon vest and a trash grabber and pretend you're changing the world one bottle cap at a time. I made a dumb joke. She laughed harder than the joke deserved. That should have been my sign. She gave grace like other people give air. For 3 years we were ordinary in the best way. Coffee runs before work. Tuesday gym. Sunday brunch with her sister Maya. We argued over whether pineapple belongs on pizza, then fell asleep holding onto the same blanket like we were both falling off the same cliff. We weren't perfect. We were us. Then the world split. Lila was attacked walking to her car after a late shift. I won't give you graphic details. It was violent. It was terrifying. It rearranged the furniture inside her head. The police were quick. There were cameras, clear enough. DNA too. They caught him within a day. He pled out. On paper, done. In real life, a new hallway you can't see the end of. I wasn't there when it happened. I was at home destroying chicken thighs with too much salt, phone face down, feeling responsible and useful and domestic in all the wrong ways. The hospital called me from a number my phone didn't recognize. In the time it took to say her name, something permanent cracked. I drove to the ER without remembering the road. And when I stood in that blue light smelling bleach in fear, I saw Lila sitting upright with a blanket around her shoulders and a look like a window left open in a storm. Her parents took her home that night. I said I understood. I did. But then a week passed and the silence started to feel less like protection and more like a locked door I wasn't allowed to knock on. When a phone finally lit up my room, it was Maya. She'll reach out soon. Soon came and went like a bus I wasn't standing near. Then I got an address. Come by for a few minutes, Maya wrote. We'll explain. I went with my best voice and my worst fear. At the door, Lila's mother gave me rules. No touching, no questions about the future, keep it brief. Inside, Lila sat near her dad, hands folded tight. She glanced at me and then away, like I was sunlight she couldn't look into. Maya did the talking. Lila was safe. Lila was shocked. Lila needed quiet. I said I'd be patient. I meant it. I left feeling like I'd been allowed into the lobby of my own relationship. That night I typed, how to support a survivor, and then scrolled until my eyes burned. Every article said the same thing in different shapes. Patience. Listen. Follow her pace. So I decided to be good at patience. I decided patience was my job. A month later, Lila texted me to meet at a coffee shop. I got there absurdly early and wiped our table like it was an altar. When she arrived, it was her, but quieter. Medication smoothed the edges of her voice. She chose words like she was measuring medicine. She told me she couldn't date right now. Hearing, I love you, would be too heavy. She needed space bigger than any room I could walk into. I told her that whatever she needed, I could give. I swallowed my part, that I needed her. I swallowed it because it felt like the only right thing. After that she texted me little slices of her days. A photo of a cat in the therapy office window. A bowl of soup she rated 6 out of 10, warm water, but fine. A meme about plants dying in 2 days. It felt like a window opened an inch in a room I'd been steaming inside. I put my face to that inch and breathed. 2 months out, I asked if we could have dinner. She said she had to check with her therapist. I said okay. 2 weeks later, she said yes. The night of, she was late. When she sat down, she looked like a string pulled tight. I asked, carefully, how she was feeling. She said not to ask personal questions. We ate almost in silence. When the check came, I asked if we could sit a while and just be. She said she wanted to go home. In the parking lot, I watched her taillights shrink and told myself this was still movement. Forward is forward, even when it's half a step. The next morning she texted me like nothing was wrong. How's your day? We fell into a rhythm. Once a week lunch. Talk about work, shows, food, anything that didn't weigh too much. I pretended the lightness didn't make me dizzy. Then came the day she didn't show. I called. No answer. I texted. Silent screen. I lasted 2 hours before I called her parents. Her mother said Lila was fine, and then said I shouldn't expect to hear from her for a while. The sentence landed like a door. For 2 weeks it was ghosts. Me. My messages. A version of us that lived only in my head. And then my phone lit with an address I didn't recognize and a time that felt like a test. Can you meet me here? She wrote. It was the therapy clinic. The therapist asked to speak to me first. Ground rules, boundaries, tone. I nodded like a student scared of failing. I sat in a chair so soft it made me nervous. Then I walked into a room where Lila held a tissue like a surrender flag. She said she had to tell me something. I braced without knowing what I was bracing for. She told me she had been with someone else, from her new job. The room changed shape. The therapist talked about agency and reclaiming control, how trauma can tangle desire, how cheating doesn't fit cleanly over certain kinds of pain. My brain understood the sentences, my chest did not. My chest heard a different sentence. The girl who can't stand my hand on hers gave her body to a man I don't know. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I said the thing I wish I hadn't had to say. You won't kiss me, and you slept with a coworker. Lila cried the way a person cries when the dam has been leaking for months and finally breaks. The therapist asked me to step outside. If this is where you decide I'm the villain, hold that thought for 3 more minutes. That night Lila texted an apology. She said it was a mistake, that she wanted me, not him, that she didn't want to lose me along with everything else she'd already lost. I told her I needed time. She gave it. 2 days later, we met again. I said if we were going to try to rebuild, she had to cut him out of her life. She said she couldn't. They worked together. I said then I couldn't do it. 2 days after that, she quit. She found a new job in another part of town. She told me she was choosing us. Part of me felt seen. Another part took notes like a court reporter. Date, action, resolution. Because something in me no longer trusted memory to be kind. We tried. Lunches, walks, soft talk. I didn't push physical closeness. I didn't even hint. I waited to be invited into a room that used to be mine. Waiting is a quiet violence. It doesn't bruise, but it hollows. Then came a night I thought would be different. She came over. We ordered pizza from the place she calls childhood cheese. We watched a ridiculous action movie and yelled at the screen like it could hear us. For 2 hours I felt almost like the old us, my favorite illusion. During the second movie, the softness of her laugh made me brave enough to ask a small question. I didn't say the words. I leaned a little closer, a kiss I could have bored in a breath. She flinched like I'd put a match to her skin. I'm not ready. In that moment something didn't explode, it collapsed. I said, as gently as a person can say something jagged, it's been over a year. I've never pushed. I've never crossed a line. I've stepped back every time. And yet he got what I've been begging the universe to give us back. She cried. I apologized for the sharpness in my voice. I told her I felt like I was paying for someone else's crime. We went 3 days without talking. When she texted again, it was a picture of a sky over a parking lot. Pink clouds like sugar spun too tight. Pretty, she wrote. I stared at the word and wondered if weather was our new love language. Here's the part I'm not proud to say out loud. I miss intimacy. Not just sex. The way two people take up a couch like they were designed to do it together. The way a shoulder finds you when you say something stupid. The way a body relaxes because you are the place it can. I know I'm not entitled to her body. I know consent isn't a prize you win by waiting long enough. But I am entitled to a relationship that feels like a relationship, not a museum full of velvet ropes. So I asked for a week to think. No contact. She said okay, and kept her word. In that week, I became a caricature of a man in limbo. Cereal for dinner. Phone face down. Ceiling fan counting. I googled the wrong things. How long is normal to wait? As if the internet could hand me a permission slip titled boundaries. On day 5, Maya called. She said Lila was drowning in guilt. That therapy was scraping up memories that didn't want to be touched. That what happened with a coworker was eating her from the inside. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Do you love my sister? Yes. Can you keep being patient? And there it was. A future condensed into a yes or a no. We met in a park the next day. Lila brought coffee, her apology language. She said she'd understand if I wanted to leave. She wouldn't trash me to anyone. She'd tell the truth, that I'd been patient in a season designed to break people. She said she still wanted us, but she couldn't promise timelines. She could promise effort. No more disappearing. No more letting shame drive the car. Inviting me to a session once a month. Saying out loud when her body felt safe enough for a little more. Hand on a table. Fingers. A hug. Not sex. Not a deadline. Just direction. I said I needed effort too. Not a finish line. Just proof we had a road. I asked for clarity. What safeguards we could put in place so bad coping didn't turn into a pattern we learned to call normal. She nodded and said she didn't have a clean why for the coworker, just a messy one. For a few hours, she wanted to feel like her body answered to her, and not to fear, and she didn't want to test that with me, because if it broke us, she wouldn't survive the loss. Twisted, honest. Both. We made a plan. 1 no trauma date a week. 1 Sunday check-in about us. 1 joint therapy session a month. Her saying out loud when a small step felt possible. Me saying out loud when resentment started humming, so I didn't turn brittle. It wasn't a cure. It was a map drawn in pencil. The first, no trauma, date lasted 11 minutes before we broke our own rule. The joint session the next week taught me the list of things that yank Lila backward. A certain cologne in a supermarket aisle. A specific fluorescent buzz. The word relax. I wanted to ban those from the planet. When the therapist asked how I felt, I surprised myself by telling the truth. Large and small at once. Large because the responsibility felt enormous. Small because there are rooms I can't enter even with all the keys. The days were mixed. We took a spontaneous drive to Wilmington. Ate fried fish on a dock while gulls staged a heist. And she leaned her shoulder into mine like gravity remembered us. 2 days later she canceled a date with a text that said can't explain, sorry. Some mornings were steady. Some afternoons felt like quicksand. Progress didn't walk, it blinked in and out. But ghosts don't leave because you ask politely. The coworker lives in the ceiling. I don't interrogate her phone. I don't ask for passwords. I don't read into every notification ping. I do notice them. And then I hate myself for noticing. Resentment is quieter than anger and more dangerous. It corrodes from the inside and pretends it's patience. One night, after a week I'd mark better than average, we watched a stupid show where people renovate vans and sell them like they're beachfront houses. Halfway through an episode, I asked a small question out loud. Can I hold your hand? She looked at me without flinching. Not tonight. I nodded. We watched a couple install tiny cabinets that would rattle apart at the first pothole. We made fun of it together. We laughed. My heart recorded the not tonight anyway. I don't know a right way to love someone through this. I know wrong ways. I try to avoid those. I also try not to disappear. Some nights I stare at the ceiling and run a cruel math. If we had never met, would I be happier? Would she? Would some future version of us thank me for leaving? I hate myself for counting. I still count. Last week, at a joint session, the therapist asked us both to name one unmet need. Lila said she needed me to stop treating each no like a prophecy, that sometimes it's a not now. I said I needed to stop living in fog. I needed to feel like the road exists, even if it's slow and full of detours. The therapist suggested weekly goals, small enough to reach. So we chose two. Twice a week Lila named something her body did, breathed deep on purpose, unclenched a fist, and I listened without fixing. Once a week, I name one moment I felt like her partner again, and she hears it without apology. It sounds small. It feels like picking a lock with a paperclip. If the story ended here, you'd probably tell me to stay. But there's more. 2 nights ago, I woke up to a message from a number I didn't recognize. A picture of a bar I know Lila used to pass on her way home. No caption, just a photo. At 1:13 a.m., I stared at it, adrenaline standing up inside me. I didn't respond. In the morning I showed Lila, bracing for some twist I couldn't name. She looked at it and said, "That's not my number." She called Maya. Turns out an old group chat she was in during her previous job. Co-workers, including him, got reactivated by someone's "let's hang" text. Numbers shuffled. Someone added me by mistake off an old contact card. Lila blocked the thread, told me she had, handed me her phone, let me block it too. We didn't talk for a minute. Then we did. Not about the picture. About how easily the past can knock, how quickly the body can go to war. We sat with that together until the heat left it. So where does that leave me, us? If I stay, I sign up for slow work. I sign up to be steady without becoming empty, to be careful without becoming scared of my own hands. If I leave, I'm not punishing her. I'm admitting I can't be the person she needs in this phase. Both choices feel like grief. And here's the cliff you've been watching me pace for 20 minutes. I love her, and I'm tired, and I still love her. Both are true at once, and no amount of logic turns that into one clear road. Before you tell me what to do, hear this last piece. It's not a twist, it's a door. Lila asked me yesterday if I wanted to come to a session next week where she plans to talk about touching my hand. Not sex, not even kissing, just hands. And then she said something that made me feel like the floor under us widened an inch. If it's no, we'll say no together. If it's yes, we'll say yes together. If it's not now, we won't pretend it's never. I don't know why that sentence made my chest loosen. Maybe because it sounded like a we. So should I stay? If you were me, would you choose the slow road and risk turning into someone who measures love like rations? Or walk away before resentment hardens into a shape you can't unlearn? Would you gamble on hands next week? On yes together, no together, not now together? Or step off this path before one more ghost takes up residence in the ceiling? I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for perspective. Because love and exhaustion are both loud, and tonight I can't tell which one I'm hearing. What would you do?